So here we have the first Avenged Sevenfold record in, well, 7 years, their longest gap between records. The album is called Life Is But a Dream, and boy, you can tell by the singles that they were releasing that this thing was going to be, let's just say, different from anything else they've put out. Now, I'm not one to say, oh, Avenged Sevenfold changing means they're bad, I want them to go back to the way they used to sound. No, I'll defend albums of theirs. I really like Hail to the King, whereas most people don't, whereas their older stuff can be very hit or miss for me. But listening to, what were the songs? I think it was Nobody and We Love You. Those songs just kind of took you in a direction that you didn't think you were going to go from the band in particular. So it led me to wonder what the whole album was going to be like. And there's tinges where it definitely does sound like old Avenged Sevenfold, but then there's definitely other songs where they go more experimental with it. But I guess my least favorite songs, we have Nobody on here. That was the first one we heard. I don't know, it's just kind of boring and underwhelming for a first single. Like you're trying to come back after 7 years. I don't want to be wowed, I just want to be entertained in some way, and Nobody really wasn't the way to go here. Then we have Ordinary and Death, which this is where it gets a little weird, especially for A7X themselves, because they're using a lot of electronic elements here to the point where they feel like a pop band more than they do a metal band at this point. Like, it was so weird for me hearing that, hearing the auto-tune, hearing the beat. It just, I don't know, it threw me off, and I'm guessing it's going to throw a lot of the listeners off because you're not expecting that. Like, kudos to them for going out and experimenting and doing something different, but like, that was definitely something that just, when I listened to it, like, this doesn't sound good. I just didn't like it from first listen. And we have the title track, Life Is But a Dream, which is just an instrumental track. It goes on for 4.5 minutes, although I don't think it needed to go on for that long. It really doesn't change up. It really doesn't do anything. It's just kind of there and thrown in, so I feel like they could have done a better job with it, maybe even shortened it a little bit to kind of, make it, a decent ending, but I was like, nah, no, not one of the better instrumentals that I've heard. Then in the OK tracks, we have We Love You and Easier. We Love You, that thing was all over the place. They went from, like, doing the current Avenged Sevenfold sound to going back and doing, the screaming that they've been known to do back in the day, way before they were popular. Like, I remember hearing about that, and old fans were like, oh my god, they did it, I can't believe they did it. The song is fine, it just jumps you around, and it doesn't really do it all that well. Like, there's portions that are good, but for the most part, it's just kind of like, okay, cool, let's move on. And Easier, I mean, I guess it's catchy in a way, but it's not necessarily one of my favorites from this album. But you know what are my favorites? Game Over, Mattel, Cosmic, Beautiful Morning, and G. Game Over kicks the album off, and I really like how it introduces itself, and then they get right into it. It sounds like your typical Avenged Sevenfold. Nothing out of the ordinary. It's nice. And with Mattel, this one comes right after Game Over, and again, I feel like it just kind of, feeds off of that song, gets more intense as you go. It's a nice 1-2 punch to begin a record. Then with Cosmic, Beautiful Morning, and G, those are all songs that kind of, I guess replicate what the band has done so well over the years, so to some it might be boring, but it's just so soothing when they make songs like this, because, I don't know, I guess these types of songs is just what they're best at here, and it's able to keep your attention all the way through. Sinister Gates is great on guitar, and that's really all I have to say about these songs. They're the best part of the record in general. Now, what about the whole entire album? How do I feel about it? Well, again, it's an interesting one that definitely does throw you for loops sometimes, and you're like, wow, this is Avenged Sevenfold, really? Again, the experimentation doesn't bother me. Any band has the right to go out and experiment. It's just the fact of, can you experiment well with what you are currently, trying to accomplish with experimenting? And for the most part, Avenged Sevenfold did fine, but it's those two, more, I guess you can kind of say, pop electronic songs that really just, I don't know, they throw the album off. They don't even feel like they belong at all. Like, if you were to just get rid of them, then I guess that would be fine. But for the most part, this album's not terrible. It's not great, but it's not terrible. And I would recommend it to some people, new fans, old fans, because I feel like for both sides there's something you can find from this record that would, appease any of the listeners of the band. But overall, I gotta say, we get a 6 out of 10 for Life is But a Dream. It's just kind of a record that will come and go for me, and I will look at as going, it could have been an epic comeback, but really it was just kind of the same plain thing. And even though it wasn't fully bad, I just feel like it could have been done better in many ways, because there was also time where the production was just not done well. There was times where it was done good, but also not, and that can be a problem too when your production is a little shaky. So yeah, that's my thoughts. You can tell me in the comments below what do you think, but until then, stay safe out there, and I will catch you all in the next one.